What would happen if someone built a conscious computer virus? That's an artificial mind that's capable of replicating itself.
The new novel coronavirus is a man-made new form of neurowarfare unleashed on the world under a secret United Nations protocol using a viral delivery system. It's to redesign and restructure the biological bloodstock and DNA gene pool of the entire human race.
Coronavirus has a simple structure with its genetic material, the RNA sitting inside and protein shell coating outside. Its outer spikes can engage the receptor on the cell surface, resulting in the merger of the virus with the cell.
The base pairs can be mounted into a chain in a way that functions like a computer, like a logical element.
To forcefully integrate the human race into a new cybernetic evolution of mankind by redesigning and re-engineering the DNA patterns.
It's like the old method with telephones, when you were dialing with sound. Every base pair has a resonance frequency. It's somewhere in the terahertz range. And if you hit the right frequency, it is opening, like a light conducting unit. And if you have a chain of these base pairs that react on different frequencies, you need a sequence of sounds to open all the fragments to make the entire thing conductive.
Scientists will copy small pieces from this distinctive fragment of DNA, what they call primers. They then heat up the sample to separate the strands of all DNA inside. To make this process easier to observe, scientists add fluorescent labels to the primers, meaning the more viral bits there are, the brighter it glows.
So it goes like do-do-do-do-do, and then the next part of the genetic thing is activated to either produce light or to produce poison. And this is something beautiful out of their view of the world, because if you bring this RNA or DNA into the human body, you can kind of take a radio signal and activate it from outside to produce any substance you want or to produce any light you want. Light is emotion, light is thought, light is everything. Everything we sense as experience.
They can biocode the DNA so that it's integrated into an algorithm, and then this algorithm can be transmitted from cell towers, it can be transmitted from aircraft, it can be transmitted from satellites, just like a cell phone.
Satellites link the sender and the receiver. A computer multiplexer routes the voice signal of the sender through microwave towers to a very specific defined location, or cell. The receiver is located and tracked with pinpoint accuracy by their biometrics, DNA, and brainwave patterns. However, the receiver is not a cellular phone. It is the human brain.
So that three people can be standing right next to you and nobody's going to feel the harassment except you, because these signals are biocoded to your body's tuning only. And then they can send down V2K, they can send down any symptom they want, because they're in full control of the bioresonance of your bioenergy.
Now we're in the process of building a much smaller, simpler, what I call digital conversion device. So my digital biological converter is going to work somewhat like a telephone, where it takes digital waves and converts it into sound waves so you can hear it. Only it will have a small box that you can attach to a computer to in fact receive a digital wave and convert it into a protein.
Within the tubulin proteins, which a microtubule is made of, an array of electron-conducting hydrophobic pockets allow energy to pass through each tubulin in multiple potential directions. This forms a larger network of possible patterns that energy can exist in the cylindrical lattice. In each hydrophobic pocket, the electron clouds of indole and phenylalanine rings may become shifted one way or another. Much like a bit of data in a computer, a 1 or a 0, This quantum bit can also exist in a state of quantum superposition between both states. This alters the pathways that energy can inhabit in the microtubule.
These proteins have been described as nature's robots. And if you think about it, for every single task in the cell, every imaginable task is described by Canford and Reynolds. There is a unique protein to carry out that task. It's programmed when to go on, when to go off. And it does this based on its structure. It doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't have a control from a mind or a higher center. Everything a protein does is built into its linear code derived from the DNA code.
The DNA in the nucleus is connected electromagnetically with microtubules in the axon. And you can see on the photograph, it's known that microtubules surround the nucleus, and there is an interface, electromagnetic, not mechanical, not chemical, but electromagnetic interface between microtubules and DNA. DNA resonance code and the brain code speak the same language. If you decipher DNA code, you will decipher the brain code. While all other research is prohibited, restricted, unfunded, the brain-computer interface is really well funded these days. Defense agencies all have open programs to develop brain-computer interface. It opens the doors for the mind control.
And so the resonant frequency of the DNA is what they use to fine-tune the technology to take total control of your entire body, spirit, soul, being, and mind. It's total not only mind control, it's total human being control. And it is the essential element that allows them to manipulate your emotions so totally and completely, to manipulate your thoughts so totally and completely, to manipulate everything you do and see and hear and think and feel every single minute of every single day so totally and completely.
This could be defined as a form of entanglement of the biological atoms with the background field, thus manifesting as a non-local, namely literally not there, phenomenon. In terms of physics, of course, this requires the existence of some kind of vacuum field, something that was decried for a long time, but is now established as the concept of the zero-point fluctuations that quantum field theory embraces. An implication is that ultimately DNA could be transferred or transported, let us say teleported, immaterially and non-locally as a light or laser modulation.
One of the things we'll be able to do is we'll be to outsource functions of our brain. So we'll be able to outsource, we'll be able to upload our memories to the cloud. What they're doing is looking at the pattern in the brain, and then they're matching that pattern, they're putting that into a database. So if you can match the patterns in somebody's brain to the patterns in the database, you can literally start to read their mind.
Remember, all this is done by a supercomputer, okay? By an infrastructure already in place with these exascale supercomputers sending out signals via towers, satellites, and mobile platforms. You know, each exascale supercomputer is capable of 1 billion, not million, billion calculations per second.
Every time a word comes up, you know it. Oh, that word came up for that individual. Now, will the patterns be identical in every person? Probably not, though the information will be stored in slightly different places. But it wouldn't take long for you to train a machine to read your mind. Now, that's just the beginning. They may be able to have algorithms sophisticated enough, and they get enough samples, enough data, that the AI could actually learn over time what the general rules are for different words, and then you could apply it to anybody.
You know, the NSA has supercomputers now that they put in Bluffdale in Utah. 1 million square feet of supercomputers. So everything just goes into these monster hard drives, and that way they can go back at any point and ask the intelligence of these machines to come up with diagrams of people that communicated or the actual dialogues.
The data is sent to the computer and then it is rendered. And from what I understand, that's where this technology is right now. The cutting edge is trying to marry, the software that's used to render it on the computer and the actual detecting of the signal and the hacking of the signal within the human mind.
We need to be able to look down at the level of the genes and the proteins and the cells, and to look further up as how these build together to produce all the magic that we know the brain produces. So the way we're going to do that is to build a kind of Microsoft for the brain, or Google for the brain, where we're going to bring all the information that we have ever accumulated on the brain and bring it uploaded into this environment.
And what we are trying to do here, your friends and family, this organization, is to use this precious knowledge to build machines that can actually create, manipulate, and use these parallel realities in the service of this one. We want to grab those parallel realities from this abstract space in which they live and crunch them down into this chip.
To eventually achieve direct behavioral control over you. And then based on, that cognitive model being complete, to begin to be able to predict and influence in advance the reference choices of the victim during thought composition. As the victim is formulating his thoughts and preparing to act, the supercomputer already has that persona and psyche, all your emotional state downloaded, every vector of your emotional state downloaded, so I can already predict and influence those events in your life in advance and achieve direct behavioral control over you.
Standard approach, the traditional approach to quantum computing, is modeled entirely on the way that computers are built today, the so-called von Neumann architecture. It's basically taking the way that we build computers now and making everything quantum. The way that we are proceeding, it goes down a different path, which in the conventional computing world is really a path not taken, which is the idea of architecting computers based on networks of devices. So what's a network? Well, it's a collection of objects that are connected. And in conventional computing, in software, these things are often called neural nets. We have a hardware version up in our head. It's called our brain. The chips that we build are architected like neural nets. There are hardware versions of neural nets.
They're putting in the 5G systems that literally will slowly kill our humanity while they control us as biological androids. They now say we're going to merge the machines. They now say that we are the robots.
Teleoperation allows a human to provide guidance to the robot to move in a way that we find good. Now let's say I'm a human pilot, Wizard of Ozing the robot. If I wanted to pick something up from the table as a robot, my teleoperator would look down, look at the field of view, look up, look at their hand, move it over, feel the tactile sensors in the hand, close the hand on the object and pick it up. So having something that's a human makes that a lot easier.
Because of my responsibilities in surveillance as a otherwise normal security specialist, I was showed this technology at work. And it was through the perspective, of course, of the camera, and what I was told that it was obvious it was being used through the eyes of the targets. So I have seen it, and it is absolutely remarkable. It's just like a first-person, video game or something where you see right through the eyes of the individual.
Now let's say I'm a human pilot, Wizard of Ozing the robot. I could have an overlay that says this person is distressed or lying or otherwise some kind of useful information that I might not be able to tell, augmented from the machine. So if I was a robot, stood up on stage, and my teleoperating pilot did this, my robot would do that, and now I can look over there, and now I can look over there. So teleoperation is a superpower in helping robots learn.
In fact, the very nature of the research and development program that is going on in Seattle, Washington, and I think by extension what's being done to TIs around the country is very largely geared towards the monitoring of human beings for the specific purpose of recording every aspect of human existence, to monitor our thoughts and to monitor our emotions and our feelings, to inform
computer software that is used on robots, that is used on computers themselves to make them as human-like as possible.
And obviously, computers are better at things than people in lots of different ways. So now imagine, not only can they do everything that a human can do, but they can do everything that the best human at any task could do better than them.
In 2003, they launched what's called the AI system, which is a intelligent supercomputer with the intelligence of a human being, in other words, a smart human being, but able to think 10 trillion times faster, with the access to all known knowledge and history, and a complete access to the internet and all of the communication pathways.
So you're dealing with a system of remote neural networks. That's what's targeting you, okay? Remote neural networks, okay, with a will, intellect, and emotion of their own.
Integrated into a package that consolidates them in human form. So everything that's ever been built in the history of AI, you can pack into one of these machines and give that capability to a human-like robot. So the form factor doesn't limit you in using these things. You can still use all of the techniques of modern AI. So if I was a robot, stood up on stage, and my teleoperating pilot did this, my robot would do that, and now I can look over there, and now I can look over there.
As far as I'm aware, it's real time. There may be a second or two delay, but it is as it is happening. They can actually see through the eyes of the target. It's done all remotely. And that is rendered, of course, in essentially real time on a computer screen. And then it is to the point where it's so accurate, you can actually see the individual pores on someone's face, see scars and nicks and so forth. And so you can understand how, if you had several people, for example, that you were able to do this, you can see through their eyes in a room or on a street corner or within an office building, wherever it is. You can get total situational awareness simply by looking through their eyes, and you can see through basically it's like being 3 or 4 or 5 different people all at the same time.
The world outside of us is very big. This room, say, is much bigger than my head. But somehow, in some real sense, I have the room inside my head. And it's not just the room, it's the city. And it's not just the city, it's the country. It's not just the country, I can think of the whole planet.
And it's highly, highly valuable for intelligence purposes and military purposes, corporate espionage purposes. And it is amazing the extent to which this technology works. It's so far advanced beyond what most people are aware of. It's truly mind-blowing. And I think that's a big part of educating people, is making them understand that, fortunately or unfortunately, this is possible, and it is being done right now today.
So how is this possible? And what I want to point out is the size. So my head's small. Well, not too small. Small. Small compared to all that. How is it possible that all that's in here? And what's come to be understood in the cutting edge of modern AI is that there is a really interesting, fascinating answer to this. And it has to do with the fact that the world has patterns, structure. So you may be familiar with fractals. So fractals look very complicated, but they're generated by a tiny little thing that you can write down in a few numbers. And the world is like this. Images, like natural images, like what I'm looking at, have so much structure that they can be shrunk and compressed into a very tiny, what AI people call representation. So what our brains seem to do is build a very, very good compressed representation of the world. Call it a model. So just like if I have a building and there's like a blueprint or a scale model of the building, imagine I have the whole world and all of its concepts, and I shrink it down into this weird compressed representation so that it fits inside my brain.
It's the Human Mind Project, the Global Brain Project. President Obama just recently funded a whole bunch of scientists to decipher the mind. Well, our previous president, same thing, George Bush, said the same thing. They're trying to decipher every possible thought and uniqueness due to culture and language and whatnot.
So you can push your biosignals to the cloud through a few API calls. Then we have a large amount of sophisticated signal processing that's spun up to make sense of that data. And then with a few more lines of code through, again, a simple REST API, you can get back a meaningful result. And all that happening in real time.
It's a scary proposition to think that every biosignal from us will be one day
measured, but if it is, I'd like to know that I'm in control of that data and not the NSA. Oh,
absolutely. And Catherine Herridge continues her reporting on a place where all that data is heading.
Bluffdale, Utah, 25 miles south of Salt Lake City, the NSA is nearing completion on a gargantuan new project. It's named the Utah Data Center.
The NSA Data Center was conceptualized in 2004 under the code name Hive. It is said that this data center is capable of storing a yottabyte of data. A yottabyte is a septillion bytes, a number so large that no one has yet coined a term for the next higher magnitude. Prior to the yottabyte, the largest unit of measure for data was an exabyte. 1 million exabytes equals 1 yottabyte. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, estimated that the total of all human knowledge created from the dawn of man up to the present, if digitized, would only total 5 exabytes. Yet the NSA is currently planning a second data center in Fort Meade, Maryland, to handle the overflow from the Utah data center, and it is projected to be 2/3 the size of the data center in Utah, at a cost to the taxpayers of approximately $1 billion. We are paying for our own enslavement and cyber imprisonment.